How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Now that the game is finally out and we've had some time to play it a little bit, I wanted to give a true, just overall review of the game and what my thoughts are on the game so far. Again, disclaimer, like I said, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Not everyone's going to think this way, and that's perfectly fine. So for this, I figured we would start with the tutorial section. When you first load up the game, you're launched into a tutorial. And I think the animations for the tutorials are really nicely done. I actually enjoy the animations before each tutorial a lot. I think there's a lot of attention to detail in them, and they do a good job of explaining the role before you actually get to learning the mechanics of the role. And it's where we get to the mechanics of the roles that issues start to arrive. Correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, but going through the beater tutorial, I don't remember it ever mentioning that you can boost your bludgers. So after you lock on target and throw your bludger at someone, you can hold down the Y button to speed it up, so you can kind of change the acceleration of the bludger before it gets to your opponent to try to throw off their dodge. I don't remember that ever being explained. For Chaser, I don't remember it ever going over shovel passes. And for Seeker, it never went over bumping. And a lot of these things are really integral to the roles and really important for players to understand. So it's a bit of a shame that they weren't at least touched on in the tutorials, because that means that it's up to the player to realize that those options are available to them and then go practice or learn how to use them and what they actually do and what use cases there are for those mechanics. Another thing with the tutorials, I still think they're a little long. I might be in the minority in that regard. I think the initial part of the tutorials where they're just explaining the roles is good. I think it's the matches that follow after that. I think those are a little long. I think maybe you can just do each of the tutorials and then have one match, or make the matches skippable. Now I'm going to talk about the 3v3 mode, the 3v3 PvP mode, which is 2 teams of 3 and then 3 bots on each team. I'll say that it's more fun than I thought it would be, or anticipated that it would be. With that said, though, it's far from perfect and definitely far from flawless. It still leads to some frustrating gameplay, and this is for a couple of reasons. One might be that you queue up, or you're going solo queue or duo queue, so you have at least one random person on your team. Let's say that person chose to go Chaser Beater, and you get into game and they spend the whole game being a Chaser. Well, that means you can't communicate with your Beater at all. So if you're struggling as a Seeker and you need some beater's assistance, or you're struggling to score a goal and you need your beater to go to the keeper, you have to rely on the bot to do that. And you could communicate with your teammates saying, hey, we really need you on beater, but obviously they don't have to switch, so they might not. Also, the Chasers, when they're bots, sometimes they will just throw the quaffle at the ground in front of the goal hoops instead of actually aiming it at the goal hoops. Sometimes even just in a random direction, it seems. It's really weird, and it's not all of the time. I have seen the Chaser bots score some difficult goals to make, but it's just every now and then these random situations, and it feels like it's like they're almost like there's a random chance of them just throwing a bad goal. Also, if you're behind a bot Chaser and you call for a shovel pass, they sometimes throw it a little wildly. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention about PvP matches, there has been a lot of times where I will duo queue and then we'll get into a game and it'll either be me and my buddy versus one other person, or us two against a whole team of 3. So it's kind of weird. I know from their statements on their Discord that the bots were put in place for queue time reasons, but I can't see how someone's going to have a more fun or fair experience if they're solo on their team full of bots versus a team of even 2 players and the rest are bots. So it's basically a 2v1. Even though they have bots filling out the other positions on other teams, like I've said before in other situations, you can't communicate with the bots. So even just me being able to communicate with my one other teammate, we're going to be able to be a little more strategic and tactful, and it might not be a great time for that one solo player. And wasn't just a one-off situation. This was happening pretty frequently the other day. Now, sometimes there would be a player that would join the other team a little bit into the match, and then they would either immediately disconnect because they saw that their team was losing because it was previously just one dude trying to fight off a team, or they would hang in there and be struggling to catch up. So I don't know if that's just due to a lack of players, or if it's kind of like a shortcut method to artificially reduce queue times, that they will just, if they can't fill the queue within a certain time frame, they'll just inject the bots in, start the game, and then wait to see if they can find someone else like a minute or two into the match. Which, again, I don't know if that's the case. I don't think it's a good method. I think that's just going to frustrate a lot of players and turn them off from the game, at least solo queuing. So while I am enjoying 3v3 mode, enjoying it more from a casual standpoint, I don't think it'll have really any room for competitive play. So hopefully the 6v6 mode gets here soon and can kind of rectify that. Much like how, for those of you familiar with League of Legends, you have your 5v5 mode, but then you also have ARAM as kind of like a chill cooldown game or between games game. I can see 3v3 becoming the ARAM of Quidditch Champions. Talking about the campaign, I really enjoyed the campaign. I think they did a good job. I'm enjoying a lot of the unlocks that come out of it. The only thing negative I really have to say about it is there is no custom arenas for all the different nations. For every single World Cup game, you're just playing at the World Cup stadium, which is kind of a letdown. I think a lot of people were expecting each nation to get their own arena, just like in Quidditch World Cup. And that's what I was expecting too. And I was really excited for that because I love seeing the extended world of Harry Potter, especially from the viewpoint of spin-off games or stories or anything. And so we did get to see much of that here. There is an Ilvermorny arena that you encounter doing 3v3 PvP, and that's really cool to see, though Ilvermorny probably didn't play Quidditch. I've got a video on that. You should go check it out. They probably actually played Quadpot or Quodpot. Still not sure how to pronounce it, but either way, it feels like there could have been more in that regard. And maybe there will be later down the line. Obviously, they have a roadmap going. Maybe they plan to add these things as time progresses. But for launch, it was a bit of a letdown. Broom Skins. So we've touched a lot on this channel about skill points and broom points or broom levels. And I'm going to briefly touch on those here again. But right now, just talking about broom skins in general. It's nice to have different skins for your brooms, but I kind of wish they worked more like a transmog where you could apply any skin to any broom, because you might get a really cool skin that you want to use, but if it's on a broom that is just inferior in every way to the other brooms in your loadout, why would you ever use it? Whereas if it was a transmog and you could apply that skin to any broom, now you might actually use the skin. For example, the Twitch drop skin. For those of you who don't know, going on for the whole month of September, basically, they've got Twitch drops going called Support a Streamer, where if you go give 2 gift subs to someone streaming in the Quidditch Champions category, you'll get a code you can redeem in-game for a unique hat, a unique outfit, and a unique broom skin. And the broom skin's pretty neat, but I'm probably never going to use it because I don't use the broom that it's a skin for on any of my builds. So again, something that's just a little unfortunate. Skill points and broom stats, much like 3v3 PvP, I am enjoying them a little more than expected. I have said before that I think that there could be some interesting intricacies within those things for the PvP scene, but definitely not in the way they're executed here, I don't think. I think some of the power-ups are just a little bit too crazy for a real competitive scene. Again, that's my opinion. I might be in the minority in that regard. I'm not totally against skill points for competitive play, but I do think they would need to be reworked in a way that's better for competitive play if they end up making it over there. I also think that players do need to be able to access all of the skill points from the start. Like I've said previously, and now I actually have a proof of concept for that argument. I've been playing since 9 a.m. on launch, and my friends didn't get on until maybe 4 or 5, somewhere around there. And they wanted to jump straight into PvP after they did the tutorials with me. Obviously, I was a higher level. I think I was like level 38 around the time. And I had all of my skill points unlocked and all my brooms upgraded. So when they jumped into PvP, they were immediately at a disadvantage because they didn't have any skill points and they were going up against other players who already had all of their skill points unlocked and all of their brooms upgraded. So it kind of left a sour taste in their mouth. Luckily, I was able to convince them to kind of stick with it until they got their skill points, and then they started enjoying the game more. But kind of as I predicted, at least with my friend group, it almost turned them off from the game from the start because they weren't on an equal playing field when they started playing. So not only did the other players have more time and experience, but they also had better loadouts, giving them a further edge that they didn't need. So talking about the role swapping, if you're playing a beater or a keeper and you get knocked out, you can instantly switch to your other role. So if you selected chaser beater and you're playing as a chaser, you get knocked out, you can just play as your beater. No problem. You're instantly back in the game in a way and have a way to continue interacting with the game. The Seeker doesn't have that. Because they're only allowed to play the Seeker role when the snitch comes out on the field, you're stuck as your chaser. And if you get eliminated, you are not interacting with the game for the next 15 or so seconds, which wouldn't be a problem if that's the way it worked for everyone, but it's not. You just don't get to play as much when you play a Seeker should you get knocked out, which is really unfortunate. Also, the control scheme for Seeker, not good. At least the bumps. The bumps, please, Devs, if you're watching, if you take anything away from this, please change the Seeker bump controls. I've looked at the control configurations, and specifically the bump is locked. I mean, there's a couple other things that are just locked. I'm not sure why that is. Right stick and Y, really not a comfortable or natural way to aim and push a button, you know? If it was like left stick and Y, I think that would make a lot more sense. And again, maybe there is a way to make it something better. If you're aware, please leave a comment below. I would love to know, please. But for the default controls, it's not good. Which is also a shame because bumping is such an important part of Seeker. If you're playing Seeker and you don't know how to bump, go learn how to bump. Vitally important. You will win more. You'll have an easier time fighting off the enemy Seeker if you just learn how to bump. Another incredibly frustrating thing for beaters is you can't select your target. Like how the chasers have a button that they can tap to lock onto the quaffle, or the Seekers have a button they can tap to lock onto the snitch so they can get a quick snap to where it's at so they can gain a perspective quickly of where they need to go. It would be nice if the beaters had something similar that let them find a specific player, for example, like a Seeker, so they know where to go from there. It might also help with their bludger lock-ons because there's a lot of times where two opponents are close enough for you to lock onto and you'll go for one, but at the last second it'll change to the other one as you're pressing the button and your bludger will just go not towards your intended target. A little frustrating. Also, the bludger notifications are usually consistent, but there is an occasional time where you will just not get a notification. And it's not because they're too close or anything like that. It's not that it went too fast. It just won't show up. And so unless you visually see the bludger, you won't know when to dodge. Other than those things, I do think each role does feel good to play. I really enjoy that they found a way to keep keepers involved in the game even when the quaffle's downfield through using their play caller abilities so they can still help their team and be involved even when the action might not be down there. Obviously, with 3v3, they can also just change to chaser when the ball's downfield. But when 6v6 comes out, if that's not the case, then I like that they gave them a way to stay involved. Microtransactions. So true to their word, there is no microtransactions in the game, at least not for now. And part of the reasoning for that is the game is not free to play. It's a $30 price tag, which I think turned a lot of people off from even giving the game a chance. I really think they should have done the free to play model because then you're casting a wider net and maybe you can attract more players. I'll touch a little bit more on that in another video, but at least from what I've seen on the Steam database charts, not a super high player count. Maybe a lot of people just decided to get it on PS5 so they can play it for free. But it is a little concerning. And also they did release it after a long weekend, so maybe we'll see those numbers go up as we hit the weekend. But like I was saying, no microtransactions in the game. I think a lot of the different cosmetics available are neat. I think the Season Pass is also neat. I don't think heroes are a great reward or purchase from the marketplace, in my opinion, simply because for me personally, I like to create myself in the game or just create my own character. But again, that's just me personally. I would like to see the final like season reward just be like a super sick broom skin or something. Wands I kind of touched on before. They're a neat collectible. It's neat that we can get them, but you really hardly ever see them. And keys take forever to get. Holy cow, do keys take a long time to collect and get. I don't know when the shop refreshes, if it's going to be like just everything in the shop's available until the end of the season and then they'll put out a new marketplace, or no idea. So it would be nice if there was some sort of indication on when we can expect new items to hit the marketplace on the marketplace. Career challenges can be a little grindy, but I don't really have a problem with that. I enjoy grinding in games for special unlocks and special rewards. I like the exclusivity or the rarity of stuff like that. I used to play Destiny back in the day, so again, that might just be a personal preference of mine, but I enjoy grinding for the exotic loot. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share my initial thoughts now that we've had our hands on the game for a couple of days. Showcase what I think is good about it and some concerns I have about it. Overall, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you're going to love the game. And if you're just a competitive gamer, you might have fun with the game, but it's still missing that competitive piece that'll really make you just want to keep playing it. And if you're just a gamer in general, you'll probably like the game too. But for those competitive people, 6v6 mode is in development. Hopefully we get that soon, in addition to a ranked mode. They haven't confirmed a ranked mode, but a lot of people in the Discord are asking for a ranked mode. So yeah, until next time, thanks for watching, guys.